Matthew 6 verse 33, But seek ye first the kingdom of God, and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you.
1. What is the test frequency for concrete compressive and flexural strength? A. 1 set per 75 cubic meters. B. 2 set per 85 cubic meters. C. 1 set per 50 cubic meters. D. 2 set per 75 cubic meters. A. 1 set per 75 cubic meters. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 405.3. 2. How many set of concrete beam specimen are you going to prepare for 800 cubic meters of concrete mix? A. 5. B. 7. C. 9. D. 11. D. 11. Solution, 800 divided by 75 equals 10.67, say 11. 3. Concrete specimen molded in a 6 inches diameter by 12 inches cylinder should be rotted blank times per layer. A. 25. B. 56. C. 63. D. 10. A. 25. Reference, Ashto T23. 25 blows 3 layers. After each layer rotted, tap the outside of mold lightly 10 to 15 times with mallet. 4. Concrete specimen molded in a 6 inches by 6 inches by 21 inches beam should be rotted how many times per layer? A. 26. B. 25. C. 63. D. 62. C. 63. Reference, Ashto T23. 1 blow per 2 inch squared. After each layer rotted, tap the outside of mold lightly 10 to 15 times with mallet. 5. Maximum temperature of fresh concrete? A. 32 degrees Celsius. B. 31 degrees Celsius. C. 30 degrees Celsius. D. 29 degrees Celsius. A. 32 degrees Celsius. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 311.3.8. 6. Immersion depth of thermometer when getting fresh concrete temperature. A. 1. B. 2.5. C. 3. D. 2. C. 3. Reference, Ashto T30920. Minimum of 3 inches. 7. Used to monitor the consistency of unhardened concrete. A. Unit weight. B. Grading. C. Slump test. D. Abrasion. C. Slump test. Reference, Ashto T119. 8. How many strokes per layer is applied on slump test? A. 20. B. 22. C. 23. D. 25. D. 25. Reference, Ashto T119. 25 strokes 3 layers approximately 1/3 volume per layer. 9. What is the approximate depth of the first layer on slump test? A. 67 mm. B. 75 mm. C. 100 mm. D. 150 mm. A. 67 mm. Reference, Ashto T119. 67 mm or 2 5/8 inch. 10. What is the approximate depth of the first plus second layer on slump test? A. 200 mm. B. 175 mm. C. 155 mm. D. 130 mm. C. 155 mm. Reference, Ashto T119. 155 mm or 6 1/8 inch. 11. Water curing temperature for concrete samples. A. 23 ± 2 degrees Celsius. B. 22 ± 3 degrees Celsius. C. 21 ± 2 degrees Celsius. D. 20 ± 3 degrees Celsius. A. 23 ± 2 degrees Celsius. Reference, Ashto T23. 12. Condition of concrete during compression test. A. Dry. B. Moist. C. Wet. D. Any of the above. B. Moist. Reference, Ashto T22. 13. Specimen test at 28 days shall be broken within the permissible time tolerance of blank. A. 8 hours. B. 12 hours. C. 20 hours. D. 24 hours. C. 20 hours. Reference, Ashto T22. 14. Criteria for acceptance of concrete. A. Average of all set of 3 exceeds specified strength and no individual strength deficient by 25%. B. Average of all set of 3 exceeds specified strength and no individual strength deficient by 20%. C. Average of all set of 3 exceeds specified strength and no individual strength deficient by 15%. D. Average of all set of 3 exceeds specified strength and no individual strength deficient by 10%. C. Average of all set of 3 exceeds specified strength and no individual strength deficient by 15%. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 311.3.20. 15. Concrete deemed to be not acceptable using compressive strength criteria may be rejected unless the contractor can provide evidence by means of coring. Concrete represented by cores will be considered if A. Average strength of cores is equal to at least 85% and no single core is less than 75% FC. B. Average strength of cores is equal to at least 95% and no single core is less than 90% FC. C. Average strength of cores is equal to at least 90% and no single core is less than 85% FC. D. Average strength of cores is equal to at least 85% and no single core is less than 70% FC. A. Average strength of cores is equal to at least 85% and no single core is less than 75% FC. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 311.3.20. 16. Truck mixer mixing speed shall be within blank. A. 4 to 6 revolutions per minute. B. 3 to 6 revolutions per minute. C. 2 to 6 revolutions per minute. D. 3 to 5 revolutions per minute. A. 4 to 6 revolutions per minute. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 405.4.4. 17. Maximum drop height of placing concrete mixture shall be blank. A. 1 meter. B. 1.5 meters. C. 2 meters. D. 3 meters. B 1.5 meters. Reference, Simplified Construction Handbook, DPWH 2014. 18. Pre-stressed concrete requires the use of class blank concrete. A, C, B, P, C, B, D, A. B, P. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 405. 19. What is the minimum cement content per cubic meter on a Class C concrete? A, 9. B, 9.1. C, 9.5. D, 8. C, 9.5. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Table 405.2. 20. The boundary between sand and gravel is A 4.750 mm, number 4. B 2.00 mm, number 10. C 0.075 mm, number 200. D 0.425 mm, number 40. A 4.750 mm, number 4. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Table 311.1 Grading requirement for fine aggregate. 21. Concrete not placed within blank minutes from the time the ingredients were charged into the mixing drum shall not be used. A, 120 minutes. B, 150 minutes. C, 60 minutes. D, 90 minutes. D, 90 minutes. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 311.3.8. Limitation of mixing. 22. For sampling sand from stockpile, what is the size of tube to be inserted in the pile at random location? A 30 mm diameter, 2 meters long. B 28 mm diameter, 2 meters long. C 25 mm diameter, 2 meters long. D 20 mm diameter, 2 meters long. A 30 mm diameter, 2 meters long. Reference, Ashto T2, approximately 30 mm min diameter by 2 meters min length may be inserted at minimum 5 increments. 23. What is the unit weight of steel? A 7,900 kilograms per cubic meter. B 7,800 kilograms per cubic meter. C 7,850 kilograms per cubic meter. D 8,000 kilograms per cubic meter. C 7,850 kilograms per cubic meter. Reference, ASTM A36. 24. What is the unit mass of a 10 mm diameter RSB? A 0.628 kilograms. B 0.617 kilograms. C 0.820 kilograms. D 0.817 kilograms. B 0.617 kilograms. Calculate unit mass using formula diameter squared divided by 162.2. 25. What is the nominal weight of 16 mm diameter by 6 meter length RSB? A 9.468 kilograms. B 9.909 kilograms. C 9.280 kilograms. D 9.017 kilograms. A 9.468 kilograms. Calculate using formula, diameter squared divided by 162.2 times length. 26. What is the maximum permissible variation in actual weight of a steel bar from the theoretical weight? A, plus or minus 6%. B, plus or minus 7%. C, plus or minus 8%. D, plus or minus 9%. A, plus or minus 6%. Reference, PNS 49, 2020. 27. You are an experienced material engineer of your firm. During compaction you found out that soil is too wet. What economical recommendation will you give? A, reject the soil. B, remove and replace the soil. C, continuous compaction. D, scarify and dry the soil by exposing it to air under suitable conditions. D, scarify and dry the soil by exposing it to air under suitable conditions. Scarify means to break up, loosen or roughen the surface. Resource, Merriam-Webster. 28. Clays when removed from the borrow pits come out in the form of chunks. If you are the assigned material engineer in the field, what is the most suitable compacting equipment will you recommend? A, tandem roller. B, vibratory roller. C, pneumatic tired roller. D, sheep's foot roller. D, sheep's foot roller. Sheep's foot roller are most effective in breaking chunks. Reference, civilblog.org. Compaction of clays. 29. As an experienced field material engineer, without the aid of laboratory equipment, it happens that your sample is hard. What practical method will you use in determining whether your hard sample is soil or rock? A, by pulverizing with a hammer. B, by submerging into the water. C, by chipping. D, by visualizing. B, by submerging into the water. 30. An experienced field material engineer can easily identify whether the soil sample is plastic without the aid of laboratory equipment. A, by air drying. B, by heating. C, sample of moist soil molded and rolled into thin threads without breaking or crumbling. D, by soaking into the water. C, sample of moist soil molded and rolled into thin threads without breaking or crumbling. 31. What is the estimated diameter of the soil thread when rolled between the palm of the hand and the glass plate begins to crumble in plastic determination? A, 1/4 inch. B, 1/8 inch. C, 1/2 inch. D, 3/16 inch. B, 1/8 inch. Reference, Ashto T90, Determination of Plastic Limit and Plasticity Index. 32. You are the material engineer of a certain company doing an earth road construction. During the progress of construction, highly organic soil was encountered. What will you recommend to your firm? A, blend the highly organic soil with granular materials. B, remove and replace with more stable materials. C, cover the highly organic soil with boulders. D, place several logs on the highly organic soils. B, remove and replace with more stable materials. Reference, DPWH Blue Book Item 104.2. Organic soils such as peat and muck are unsuitable material. 33. You are the materials engineer of your firm. It so happened that in the preparation of the estate plans it was found out that there was an increase and new additional items of work from the original quality control program submitted. A, maintain the old submitted quality control program. B, revise the quality control program. C, delete the increase and the new additional item. D, any of the above. B. Revise the quality control program. 34. If there is a strength deficiency in the concrete specimens and it is not feasible or not advisable to obtain cores from the structure due to structural considerations, as materials engineer, what will you recommend? A. Send letter to your superior for his decision. B. Recommend immediately adjusted price of payment with respect to the deficiency incurred. C. Both A and B. D. Tolerate the strength deficiency. B. Recommend immediately adjusted price of payment with respect to the deficiency incurred. Reference: DPWH DO 21S 2019 Section 311.3.20. Acceptance of concrete. 35. Vibratory steel will roller for compaction shall have a minimum mass of blank tons? A. 4. B. 6. C. 8. D. 10. B. 6. Reference: DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 106.2.1. Compaction equipment. 36. Free haul distance if not provided in the contract shall be blank. A. 400 meters. B. 500 meters. C. 600 meters. D. 1 kilometer. C. 600 meters. Free haul distance is the specified distance that excavated materials shall be hauled without additional compensation. Reference: DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 107, Overhaul. 37. What type of concrete specimens shall be taken in pavement structure? A. Cylinder. B. Beam. C. Cube. D. Frustum. B. Beam. Reference: DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.3.10, Concrete beam specimen, 150 by 150 by 525 mm. 38. Flexural strength of Portland cement concrete pavement when tested at third point? A. 24.1 megapascals. B. 21.4 megapascals. C. 4.5 megapascals. D. 3.8 megapascals. D. 3.8 megapascals, at 14 days. Reference: DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.2.12. 39. What is the minimum required cement content per cubic meter of concrete to meet the minimum strength for Item 311 PCCP? A. 364 kilograms. B. 400 kilograms. C. 450 kilograms. D. 460 kilograms. A. 364 kilograms. Reference: DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.2.12, at least 364 kilograms. 40. What is the maximum spacing for operating vibrators? A. 40 centimeters. B. 50 centimeters. C. 60 centimeters. D. 70 centimeters. C. 60 centimeters. Reference: DPWH DO 21S 2019 Section 311.3.2, Equipment. 41. In no case shall the vibrator be operated longer than blank seconds in one location. A. 3 seconds. B. 5 seconds. C. 7 seconds. D. 15 seconds. D. 15 seconds. Reference: DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.3.9, Placing Concrete. 42. Sawed contraction joint shall be created by sawing groves in the surface of the pavement of the width not more than blank mm and depth not less than blank mm. A 5 mm width and 40 mm depth. B 6 mm width and 50 mm depth. C 7 mm width and 30 mm depth. D 8 mm width and 50 mm depth. B 6 mm width and 50 mm depth. Reference, DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.3.12, Transverse Contraction Joint, Weakened Joint. 43. Sawing of the joint shall commence as soon as concrete has hardened sufficiently to permit sawing without excessive raveling, usually blank hours. A. 4 to 24 hours. B. 24 hours. C. 28 hours. D. 72 hours. A. 4 to 24 hours. Reference, DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.3.12, Transverse Contraction Joint, Weakened Joint. 44. When there is an interruption of more than 30 minutes in concreting operations, no transverse joint shall be constructed within blank meters of an expansion joint, contraction joint, or weakened plane joint. A 1 meter. B 1.5 meters. C 2 meters. D 2.5 meters. B 1.5 meters. Reference, DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.3.12, Transverse Contraction Joint. 45. The brooming corrugation on pavement shall be uniform in appearance and not more than blank millimeters in depth. A. 0.5 millimeters. B 1.0 millimeters. C 1.5 millimeters. D 2.0 millimeters. C 1.5 millimeters. Reference, DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.3.13, Final Strike Off. 46. Concrete pavement surface when tested with a 3 meter straight edge shall have maximum surface deviation of blank. A 3 millimeters. B 5 millimeters. C 7 millimeters. D 8 millimeters. A 3 millimeters. Areas showing high spots of more than 3 millimeters but not exceeding 12 millimeters in 3 meters shall be marked and immediately ground down to an elevation where area will not show surface deviation in excess of 3 millimeters. Pavement with more than 12 millimeters deviation shall be removed and replaced at the expense of the contractor. Reference, DPWH DO 21S 2019 Section 311.3.14, Surface Test. 47. If the strength requirement for Item 311 PCCP does not meet the strength requirement, and it is not feasible to obtain cores, payment of concrete will be made at an adjusted price due to strength deficiency. What is the strength percent deficiency of the specimen for the item to be paid 100% of the contract price? A. Less than 5. B. 5 to less than 10. C. 10 to less than 15. D. 15 to less than 20. A. Less than 5. Reference, DPWH DO 21S 2019 Section 311.3.20, Acceptance of Concrete. 48. How many cores shall be obtained on each lot for pavement thickness determination? A. 1. B. 2. C. 3. D. 5. D. 5. One lot shall be considered as 1,000 linear meters of pavement for single lane and 500 linear meters for two lanes. Reference, DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.3.22, Tolerance in Pavement Thickness. 49. When any core is deficient by more than 25 mm, additional cores shall be taken at what interval parallel to the center line in each direction from the affected location? A 1 meter, B 2.5 meters, C 3 meters, D 5 meters, D 5 meters. Reference, DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.3.22, Tolerance in Pavement. 50. When average thickness of the pavement per lot is deficient by more than 25 mm. What will be the price adjustment? A 85% of the contract, B 70% of the contract, C 50% of the contract, D. Remove and replace, no payment. D. Remove and replace, no payment. No acceptance and final payment shall be made on completed pavement unless core test for thickness determination is conducted, except for barangay roads where the implementing office is allowed to waive such test. Reference, DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 311.3.22 Tolerance in Pavement. 51. What is the degree of compaction of soil if the wet density is 2,200 kg per cubic meter with an actual moisture content of 10.2% and maximum dry density of 1,960 kg per cubic meter? A. 100.80, B. 124.69, C. 101.86, D. 112.24. C. 101.86. Formula. Degree of compaction is equal to dry density divided by maximum dry density times 100. 52. Prime coat shall be left undisturbed for at least blank. A. 6 hours. B. 12 hours. C. 24 hours. D. 4 hours. C. 24 hours. Reference, Blue Book 2013 Item 301.3.3 Application of Bituminous Material. 53. Blank is applied on existing bituminous or cement concrete surface. A. Prime coat. B. Tack coat. C. Seal coat. D. Surface treatment. B. Tack coat. Reference, DPWH Blue Book Item 302. 54. Classification of soil which 35% or less the particles pass through number 200 sieve. A. Grain size soil. B. Granular materials. C. Silty clay materials. D. Clay materials. B. Granular materials. Reference, Ashto M 14591 Table 1. 55. Classification of soil which 35% or more of the particles pass through number 200 sieve. A. Coarse sand soil. B. Granular materials. C. Silty clay materials. D. Clay materials. C. Silty clay materials. Reference, Ashto M 145 and ASTM D328. 56. The minimum penetration of the preservative into the surface of the timber shall be blank. A 15 mm. B 20 mm. C 25 mm. D 10 mm. B 20 mm. Reference, Blue Book 2013 Item 400.2.2 Treated Timber Piles. 57. How many hours do aggregate stockpile or bin for draining before being batch? A. 1 hour. B. 6 hours. C. 12 hours. D. 24 hours. C. 12 hours. Reference, DPWH Blue Book 2013 Item 405.4.3 Batching. 58. Cast-in-place concrete shall not be post-tensioned until at least blank and until the compressive strength has reached the strength specified. A. 7 days. B. 10 days. C. 14 days. D. 20 days. B. 10 days. Reference, Blue Book 2013 Item 406.3.10 Post-tensioning. 59. Tests for coarse aggregate include blank. A. Mortar strength. B. Abrasion and absorption. C. Flexural strength. D. None of the above. B. Abrasion and absorption. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 311.2.3 Coarse aggregate, mass percent of wear is from abrasion test. 60. Tests for fine aggregate include blank. A. Gradation and mortar strength. B. Abrasion. C. Flexural test. D. None of the above. A. Gradation and mortar strength. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 311.2.2 Fine aggregate. 61. Quality determination of concrete coarse aggregate sample requires blank. A. Abrasion test. B. Sieve analysis. C. Stability. D. Both A and B. D. Both A and B. Reference, Blue Book 2013 Item 311.2.3 Coarse aggregate. 62. It is particles of rock which will pass 3-inch sieve and retained on a number 10 sieve. A. Gravel. B. Stone. C. Coarse. D. Fine. A. Gravel. Reference, ASTM E11. 63. Pouring permit duly approved and issued by A. Contractors ME. B. DPWH ME. C. Contractors PE. D. DPWH PE. D. DPWH PE. Reference, DO 211S 2000, Concrete Pouring Permit. 64. In conducting AASHTO T96, what is the diameter of steel spheres used? A. 49.5 mm. B. 48.6 mm. C. 46.8 mm. D. 45.9 mm. C. 46.8 mm. Reference, AASHTO T96 Los Angeles Abrasion. 65. Scales for weighing aggregates and cement shall be accurate within blank % throughout the range of use. Scales shall be inspected and sealed as often as the engineer may deem necessary to assure their continued accuracy. A. 1.0%. B. 0.5%. C. 1.5%. D. 2.0%. B. 0.5%. Reference, Blue Book 2013 Item 311.3.2 Equipment. 66. How many spheres are used in abrasion test grading A at 500 revolutions? A. 6. B. 8. C. 10. D. 12. D. 12. Reference, Ashto T96. 67. Submission of sample for testing for cement is blank. A 10 kilograms. B 20 kilograms. C 15 kilograms. D 40 kilograms. A 10 kilograms. Reference, DPWH minimum testing requirement. 68. Blank is the slump of workable concrete if vibrated. A. 10 to 20 millimeters. B. 10 to 40 millimeters. C. 40 to 50 millimeters. D. 40 to 75 millimeters. B. 10 to 40 millimeters. Reference, DO21S 2019 Item 311.2.12, Proportioning, Consistency and Strength of Concrete. 69. Which plasticity index is most suitable for aggregate base course? The fraction passing the 0.425 mm number 40 shall have a liquid limit not greater than 25 and plasticity index not greater than 6. A. 15. B. 10. C. 6. D. 50. C. 6. Reference, Blue Book 2013 Item 201, Aggregate Base Course. 70. Blank is the method used in determining the strength of concrete pipes. A. Third point loading. B. 3-edge bearing test. C. Mid-span loading. D. None of the above. B. 3-edge bearing test. Reference, ASTM C76. 71. If an asphalt pavement will be constructed over an old existing concrete pavement, blank should be applied to the concrete pavement. A. Seal coat. B. Tack coat. C. Prime coat. D. Mortar coat. B. Tack coat. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 302, Bituminous tack coat. 72. Coarse aggregate for bituminous macadam pavement should be blank. A. Crushed gravel or crushed stone. B. Natural gravel. C. Both A and B. D. None of the above. A. Crushed gravel or crushed stone. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 305, Bituminous penetration macadam pavement, 305.2.3 aggregate. 73. Unless otherwise specified in the special provision, the type of Portland cement used in paving concrete shall be blank. A. Type 3. B. Type 2. C. Type 4. D. Type 1. D. Type 1. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 311.2.1, Portland cement. 74. During construction of a road project, if all the materials to be used are tested for quality, inspection is no longer required. A. False. B. True. A. False. Reference, DO 134S 2017, 3.1.3 Quality Control Testing. 75. The degree of compaction of an embankment in our present specification is based on blank. A. Unconfined compression test. B. AASHTO T180. C. Bulk specific gravity. D. CBR method. B. AASHTO T180. Reference, Blue Book 2013. Item 104.3.3, Compaction Earth, AASHTO T180 Moisture Density Relation. 76. A soil with a group index of 5 is stronger than another with a group index of 10. A. False. B. True. C. It depends on the water content. D. None of the above. B. True. Reference, AASHTO. Group index values near 0 indicate good soils, while values of 20 or more indicate very poor soils. 77. This typical material of this group is fine beach sand or fine desert blow sand without silty clay fines or with very small amount on non-plastic silt. A. Group A1. B. Group A3. C. Group A5. D. Group A7. B. Group A3. Reference, AASHTO Soil Classification. Group A3. The typical material of this group is fine beach sand or fine desert blown sand without silty or clayey fines or with a small amount of non-plastic silt. 78. Rock excavation consists of igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic rock which cannot be excavated without blasting or the use of rippers, and all boulders or other detached stone each having a volume of blank. A2 cubic meters. B1 cubic meter. C3 cubic meters. D. 0.5 cubic meters. B1 cubic meter. Reference, Blue Book Item 102. Excavation 102.1.1 Roadway Excavation Clause 2. 79. What is the minimum quantity per linear meter for steel pipes galvanized? A. 4 pieces 100 mm taken from both ends without threads. B. 3 pieces 100 mm taken from both ends without threads. C. 2 pieces 100 mm taken from both ends without threads. D. 1 piece 100 mm taken at end without thread. C. 2 pieces 100 mm taken from both ends without threads. Reference, DPWH minimum testing requirement for the submission of samples. 80. A sample from a bituminous mix weighs 1,000 grams. At extraction, it was found out that the dry aggregate weighed 950 grams. What is the percent of asphalt by weight of mix? A. 5.2%. B. 5.0%. C. 5.4%. D. 4.8%. B. 5.0%. Solution, 1000 minus 950 divided by 1000 times 100 equals 5.0%. 81. The contractor shall submit in writing a job mix formula for the mixture supported by laboratory test data along with samples of resources of components and viscosity temperature relationships to the engineer for testing and approval at least blank. A. 2 weeks. B. 3 weeks. C. 1 week. D. 4 weeks. B. 3 weeks. Reference, DO 21S 2019 Item 307 Bituminous Plant Mix Surface Course General. 82. The penetration test is an indication of the blank of asphalt. A. Consistency. B. Softness. C. Hardness. D. Flash point. A. Consistency. Reference, DPWH Laboratory Manual Volume 2. Determination of penetration of bituminous materials. Significance of test. 83. Specification requires one quality test for every blank of asphalt. A. 20 tons. B. 200 tons. C. 50 tons. D. 40 tons. D. 40 tons. Reference, www.gppb.gov.ph. GPPB means Government Procurement Policy Board. 84. Blank is an indication that the asphalt mix is overheated. A. Blue smoke. B. Stiff appearance. C. Rising steam. D. Mix slumps in truck. A. Blue smoke. Reference, www.transportation.alberta.ca. 85. In soil, all boring shall be carried to a depth of at least blank below the grade line. A. 0.50 meters proposed. B. 1.5 meters. C. 1.0 meters. D. 1.8 meters. B. 1.5 meters. Reference, DPWH DGCS Volume 2 C. Geological and Geotechnical Investigation. 86. Blank is the moisture in an air-dried soil. A. Moisture content. B. Natural moisture content. C. Hygroscopic moisture content. D. Hydrometer moisture content. C. Hygroscopic moisture content. Reference, www.astm.org. 87. In which DPWH item is emulsified asphalt not suitable? A. Item 301. B. Item 302. C. Item 304. D. Item 308. A. Item 301. Reference, DPWH Blue Book. 88. Asphalt cement shall not be used while it is foaming nor shall be heated at blank any time after delivery. A. 107 degrees Celsius. B. 159 degrees Celsius. C. 120 degrees Celsius. D. 100 degrees Celsius. B. 159 degrees Celsius. Reference, DPWH Blue Book Item 307.3.4 Preparation of bituminous material. 89. How many gradation ranges for hot plant mixed bituminous pavement are there in the Blue Book? A. 5. B. 6. C. 7. D. 8. C. 7. Reference, DPWH Blue Book. Table 703.2 Gradation Ranges. 90. What is the plasticity index of mineral filler? A. Not greater than 4. B. Not greater than 6. C. Not greater than 8. D. 0. A. Not greater than 4. Reference, DPWH Blue Book Item 703A, Mineral Filler 703A.2.2 Physical Requirements. 91. Paint contains blank of pigment and blank vehicle. A. 20% and 80%. B 21% and 79%. C 79% and 21%. D 80% and 20%. B 21% and 79%. Reference, DPWH Blue Book Item 709, Paint, 709.3.1 Aluminum Paint, Field Coats on Structural Steel. 92. If the dry stability is 1,300 pounds per square inch, wet stability of 1,250 pounds per square inch and air voids of 3%, what is the index of retained strength? A 96.15%. B 99.15%. C 104%. D 101%. A 96.15%. Solution, index of retained strength equals wet strength divided by dry strength times 100. 93. Blank is the temperature tolerance of mix in bituminous after job mix is established. A. Plus or minus 10 degrees Celsius. B. Plus or minus 12 degrees Celsius. C. Plus or minus 15 degrees Celsius. D. Plus or minus 18 degrees Celsius. A. Plus or minus 10 degrees Celsius. Reference, DO21S 2019 Item 307, Bituminous Plant Mix Surface Course General. 94. In a soil exploration, if the characteristic of rock is questionable, the minimum depth of boring into the bedrock should be blank. A 1.5 meters. B 2.0 meters. C 2.5 meters. D 3.0 meters. D 3.0 meters. Reference, DGCS Volume 2C. Item 4.3 Bridges 4.3.1 Depth. 95. When group index equals 0, what is the grade of soil? A. Weak soil. B. Poor soil. C. Good soil. D. Very poor soil. C. Good soil. Reference, AASHTO Soil Classification. Group index values near 0 indicate good soils, while values of 20 or more indicate very poor soils. 96. Blank is the limit where further loss of water due to evaporation which will not result in reduction of volume. A. Plastic limit. B. Liquid limit. C. Shrinkage limit. D. Credit limit. C. Shrinkage limit. Reference, DO 114S 2016 DPWH Enterprise Data Glossary. 97. It evaluates the quality of soil as highway subgrade material. A. Atterberg limit. B. Plasticity index. C. Group index. D. Liquid limit. C. Group index. Reference, AASHTO classification. 98. Failed samples does not necessarily mean that the structure it represents is defective. Why? A. Maybe sampling is incorrect. B. Maybe sampling is correct. C. Maybe curing is correct. D. Maybe testing is correct. A. Maybe sampling is incorrect. 99. Before the project starts, the materials engineer or the technician must have a program on how many samples for each item of work should be tested based on the minimum testing requirements. What program or report is this? A. Program of work. B. Program of activities. C. Quality control activities. D. Quality control program. D. Quality control program. 100. As the work progresses, the materials engineer should know how many samples has been submitted and tested and how many samples are to be submitted. In other words, the materials engineer must refer to what report so that he or she may be updated on the balance and on-file quality test of the construction materials being used in the project. A. Quality Control Assurance Report. B. Quality Control Program. C. Status of test. D. None of the above. C. Status of test. If you find this video helpful and informative, please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified on next uploads. Thank you and God bless.